Batman Arkham games have been the best superhero games for a good amount of time, but it looks like Marvel's Spider-Man 2 might have taken that crown away. The game has improved in every single way from the first two games, whether it's swinging by from the massive worlds, using abilities and powers during combat, having amazing storylines, and the biggest improvement of them all, MJ's missions are not boring and annoying. For the most part, playing as two Spider-Man was an absolute joy. Especially for a Spider-Man fan like me, that is the best thing. While most of the story was set around Peter Parker, Miles was part of some of the story and side missions. It created a great balance as you played the game. Not only that, switching between the Spider-Mans at any point of time during the gameplay was great. And the visual of this game is amazing. While the city might lack a depth that we need from it, especially at night, it just looks like rectangular boxes with some holes of white light in it. But still, swinging around the city using the web wings and just taking screenshots whenever you can has been an absolute blast. It's actually quite fun to use these web wings for traversal and having these specific wind tunnels so you can even go faster. Things get even better if you unlock skills specifically for the swing section, because when you do that, you have so many new ways to just go around the city. Speaking of skills, it was lovely to see that you can have skills for each Spider-Man and also a common skill tree. And it makes perfect sense because both Spider-Man operate very differently. Batman Arkham Origins tried to have skills in the game, but it made no sense because Batman is always looked upon as a veteran superhero. Whereas for Spider-Man, he's always so young that there are things to improve all the time. And it happens in the game as well. For example, Miles has his raw abilities of electricity, but Peter doesn't have any of that. So he decided to create his own tech by having spider legs. Even when you start the game, Peter and Miles together made a new tech and took a shot of using it, and those were web wings. They keep trying to improve how to be a better Spider-Man. However, Peter Parker might have gone a different way to become a better Spider-Man. But that transitions so well into combat. While most of the fighting and sliding and combos are the same, there have been certain improvements, like doing a swing attack no longer lets the enemy fly away. There are also some sick moves that you can unlock, such as slamming the enemy left and right, or using the spider legs to do a tornado attack, or using Miles' electricity power to jump and land on a particular enemy. Other than using Spider-Man's specific abilities, both the Spider-Mans also use gadgets. So now you have an arsenal of abilities and gadgets that you can use during the fight, because there are various moments where you're supposed to fight tons of enemies just like in Batman games. Not only that, it seems like there is an added camera shake movement or something like that, because somehow that makes the action more action-y. Even boss fights were improved in this game. Instead of just fighting them once, you fight them in multiple rounds. And each boss fight is so amazing and so unique, and when you get to the boss fight that you want to fight, it will be worth it. In terms of side missions, it looks like some care has been given to them. One of the most touching side missions is meeting this grandfather. It's a mission that everybody needs to do, or catching up to the man with the pigeons. I never expected how it's going to turn out to be, and man oh man, it was one of the most memorable ones. While there are some side missions which are very repetitive and similar to that of Marvel's Spider-Man, others were quite good and pushed forward the storylines of certain individuals. And speaking of the story, which is the best part of this game, the relationship of Harry and Peter seems to be the center of the game. You get to see the relationship and how close they are as friends, and also figure out how Harry is sort of cured. And whatever happens later in the game has much more importance and depth. The first half of the story is all about Kraven hunting for Spider-Man enemies. Kraven is presented in a much more intimidating manner. Nothing can hurt him, but he wants someone to really hurt him. There are various scenes in the game where you can see how powerful Kraven is and how intimidating he is. While Peter Parker has his own things going around, Miles and Martin Lee had a small tension, and it was great to see throughout the game. However, it was not much explored as much as Peter's things are explored. It felt like there could have been more to this than what we got. Now, if you've seen the trailer, you know that Peter gets the symbiote, and it's not like he's angry and crazy from the get-go. Just like in Spider-Man 3, Peter Parker gradually became that weird guy and always angry. We got to see here, except the dance part. It was not done in the game, but it was done somewhere else. While I wanted a bit more intensity when the symbiote was going away from Spider-Man, something similar to how it happened in Spider-Man 3 or comics, but what happened to get to that point? That was good. And when you get to Venom, things changed drastically. Insomniac did something that I never expected we could do. Spoiler, we get to play as him. That's the second part of the game where things are much darker. Whenever Venom is presented, the music just makes that scene intense. And Tony Todd's voice as Venom is amazing. Just like in the Venom movie, how the Venom and the symbiote is more liquid, it's the same effect right here, and I love that. There was much more done with the help of Venom than I thought there would be. So it was kind of surprising. And as I mentioned before, MJ's missions are no longer annoying and boring. This time around, it actually feels like she's doing something important. However, it's still not the best. But there was one mission from another character that I never expected we would play as. Even though you're not doing much, but the way it was done was quite nice. Marvel Spider-Man 2 for me was the best superhero game of all time. Definitely the best Spider-Man game. The story is everything I wanted from the game that involved the symbiote. And the gameplay just made everything so much more fun. The way the game ended, having those end credits, there's definitely a third Spider-Man. And now that we know that Marvel's Wolverine is going to be in the same universe as Marvel's Spider-Man, I cannot wait to see what Insomniac will be able to cook up, because Wolverine is much more bloodier than, well, Spider-Man. And I got to talk to the actor of Harry Osborn from Marvel Spider-Man, Graham Phillips. Check this episode of Behind the Wires podcast where you get to know his entire story of working with the game.